Yeah, what we doing now? It's Nisha's network, y'all.
It's Nisha's network, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's all about connecting, yeah.
connect the
Let's go.
vibe.
It's Nisha's network, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all about connecting, yeah. Let's go.
Connect and feel the vibe. Connections make you feel alive. We do this every day. Let's put your business on display. Network, let's heal and pray. It's our love, we here to stay. Trust in God, He'll lead the way. We on right now, no need to wait. Let's go. It's Nisha's network, yeah, yeah. It's all about connecting, yeah. Let's go.
So, hey everybody, how are you today? If you are watching Nisha's Network today, please go ahead and subscribe and hit share. Share on all your social media platforms. This is going to be a great time with my special guest today. As many of you all know, we have been literally talking about mental health last month, and we really just can't really get away from it right now because of the fact that we literally are trying to get the message out that there is hope, that there is recovery for so many people. And today I have a very special guest, which I had the privilege of hearing her story a couple weeks ago, and just the boldness and the opportunity to hear hope was so huge that I was like, Haley, you have to be on Nisha's Network. So I'm going to welcome, without further ado, none other than Miss Haley Robinson. Hi, Haley.
How are you? You just gave me goosebumps. Thank you. That was really good.
Good. So we are here today. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful that you are here with Nisha's Network today. And so I'm just going to dive right in. Haley and I are both a part of a ROSC, which is called a acronym for Recovery Oriented System of Care. The ROSC represents Recovery Oriented System of Care, and each organization really has their own areas of recovery. But one of the things that Haley and I have in common is the fact that we work with substance use disorder as well as mental health. And then our Heart Life family expands it to unemployment and people who live with do not have homes. But the bottom line is that we work together to build a community of resources and
Support.
support for people, because really that's really what is needed in our community. So Haley, introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Haley Robinson. I'm a peer recovery specialist out of Johnson County, Illinois, at the very tip of Illinois. We have hardly any resources down here, and we just recently, 6 months ago, got our Ross grant. And since then, we have went as far as we possibly can with it. We cover 4 counties at the moment. We're about to get 2 more, so we'll have 6, and I could not be more excited. And it's like 9 years of prayers fell into my lap in one day, and I've not got over it since, I don't think. And every morning I wake up blessed.
That's awesome. So how far are you from Chicago, the Chicagoland area?
About 7 hours.
Wow, so you are at the tip of Illinois.
There is Vienna and then Metropolis and then Kentucky. So
Wow. So you're right at the tip. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about. We're going to talk about you being a peer recovery specialist, but let's just talk about how you got into this type of work and how you became an advocate and a support system for people who needed recovery. Give us a little history and background.
I have been an addict since I was 13 years old, and nothing in between, pretty much.
Let's pause there for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, at the age of 13, would
Yes.
you know that a lot of teenagers get connected and involved in things they have no business? How does that even start? Like, you're a mom, and we'll talk about that a little later, but how would a parent just be aware to say, pay attention to your kids because it's very possible they would be introduced to drugs?
My doctor prescribed me to Ativan whenever I was 12. My mom and dad did not have a good relationship at all growing up, and I quickly realized that the more Ativan that I took, the more I didn't have to mentally deal with that, the more okay I felt about things. I smoked methamphetamine with my father whenever I was younger, and from there it just never stopped. Whenever you are born with the gene of addiction in your DNA, there you're gonna find it somewhere, even if it's shopping or food or anything. And I'm not gonna say unfortunately. Fortunately, mine was with substance use, and it's led me to where I am now today. And I believe that I've went through the things in life that I've went through to be where I am, and I couldn't be more thankful. I'd do it all over again.
Wow, that is such a powerful testimony is
I
what it
wouldn't like to, but I definitely would to sit here today.
Yes. And so so let's talk a little bit about that. So your it was in your DNA, basically your family members had um you said with your dad, you would smoke fentanyl and you said
Methamphetamine.
methamphetamine. So
Didn't even hear fentanyl back in the day like that, unless it was.
no, you did not. But what did that look like in terms of throughout high school for you?
I got put in alternative school whenever I was in junior high. And then once I got to high school, I made it through my freshman year. Once I got to my sophomore year, I got put in alternative and then switched to a different alternative due to being rude or selling drugs or not showing up at all. But I babysat a lot for my cousins, so I didn't show up. But a lot of times I would use that as an excuse not to go. So I got my GED.
Well, congratulations to you for getting your GED and completing school. So, tell us a little bit about when you became were you when you became a mom, were you already in recovery from drugs? Tell us a little bit about that.
Not at all. I was farther than I've ever been in anything, and I went to the doctor to have a what's it called? I don't remember what it's called before you have surgery. I was going to have a hysterectomy, and they was doing the pre-op work, is what it is. And they told me I'd never be able to have children. I was 19 years old. I was 20 years old, and was going to just get everything done because they said it's not a possibility. And I laid on the bed that day, and I got to hear my son's heartbeat, and it was over. That was it.
That was when you that was a turning point for you?
Absolutely. That was my day.
Wow.
I've relapsed twice since then. They've been one day each time, and it is the Lord works in wonderful ways.
Yes,
I
he does.
mean, they've been one day each relapse, but the second relapse, I'd had 4 miscarriages from the time I had my son until I had my daughter. On my second relapse, that night, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, and it was like, okay, Lord, I got you. I see this, and
Yes. And
there
so what
is.
is it about being a mom that made you knew you had to do something no, you had to do something different?
I never wanted to be a mom in my life. I wanted to be a carny. I'm not even gonna lie. I wanted to travel the world and be ignorant about things. And once I heard my son's heartbeat, it took everything in me. It was so much joy that that's something you can't describe. You know, like that's your entire world altogether. And I couldn't mess it up. I knew what it was like to have a father as an addict, and I could not do that.
For your children. So what were your steps, Haley, that you took to actually get help? Because I mean, sometimes, it feels some people, and I've heard people say this, that sometimes they can just stop. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. Some people say, you know what, it took some time, you know what I mean? And so what were your steps in terms of, I headed toward recovery?
I've been to rehab too many times. I went to medical detox in Evansville, Indiana, whenever I was too addicted to benzos, and they thought that it was going to kill me to come off of them. I stayed at the ER, and not by choice. I did not want to go to rehab, so that did not help. Whenever I came home, I continued on with things.
Now, was this after the baby or
No, No, all before.
All before. Okay.
Yes. I wanted to go to rehab at one point. So our closest rehab here is about 45 minutes. And I went there every day or every week, I'm sorry, once a week for about 4.5, almost 5 weeks until they accepted me. I stayed at home and detoxed off of benzos because they would not accept me with benzos in my system. And they kept me in detox for 12 days. And that was one of the biggest blessings in my entire life. I absolutely loved it there, but it did not stick. I continued to get high whenever I got home from there and while I was there. And nothing really, I wish there was Rosk around whenever I was getting sober because there's nothing like this program at all. And we just got finished to be I'm facilitated to do smart recovery. And I cannot wait to start these meetings next month because we have nothing like that. That would have helped me tremendously. So I cannot wait to see the outcomes of this.
Girl, congratulations on
I'm excited.
Your certification for that. And I think that that's something that I want to move towards talking about. Now, I'm grateful to God that, your testimony is so powerful and that you have a voice. But what I want to talk about is how did you get involved in becoming a ROS? What made you say, I know you work for Arrowleaf?
Yes, ma'am.
Arrowleaf nonprofit organization for mental health. But what made you say, you know what, I need to do something different?
My counselor, whenever I was growing up, never judged me a day in my life. She was my best friend. She literally planted so many seeds whenever I was younger that didn't sprout until way later on, and I'm so thankful for that. But I had been going to school to be a counselor, and I thought that I had to have my master's degree to be a counselor. And our town is so tiny. We've got a couple gas stations, a bar, and a grocery store. And I was bringing my aunt to her DUI class at Arrowleaf, and I was asking one of the ladies, the credentials and everything to be a counselor. And she said, we just got this grant. Just got it. It's 3 days old. She said, I want you to fill out this application. I'm like, what is it? She said, a peer recovery specialist. I said, well, I don't have anything but my associates just yet. She said, you got lived experience in your GED. That's all you need. And
the rest is history, huh?
I don't want to be a counselor. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
But you know what, Haley, you are a counselor. And just because you don't have the same letters behind your name does not mean you've got something better. You've got lived experiences which have caused people to know it's a believable thing to have healing and hope and health.
That's something that a book can't teach you. You will not understand what it's like to be so far into addiction that you don't want to come out of it through a book. You will never feel the feelings through that.
Wow. So sustainability is important. And I know through our ROS program, we provide support services to be able to say, hey, you're not alone and you don't have to return to the lifestyle of addiction, substance use disorder. But let's speak a little bit to mental health, because that plays a major part in a lot of people who have lived experience through substance use disorder. So I want you to address that. How important is it when people have mental illness, and how do they tie in together? How do you feel they tie in together?
Co-occurrence. It's absolutely tied in together. Either you start with a mental illness or you develop a mental illness from your substance use disorder. There's no getting away from it.
And you know how people say, Haley, I'm not mentally ill, but being depressed
absolutely
is an illness, right? You can slowly see yourself going in a downward spiral and you don't even realize what's going on.
And me, myself, I like to say, oh, it's okay. I know I'm getting depressed. I know the season's coming up or the certain date's coming up. And I'm just getting down on myself a little bit, but I know that I can get out of it. It's just a little hole. It's not that deep yet. And that's not okay. You don't have to cover things up like that. whenever you know that you've got support in somebody that's got your back and you can talk to them and speak freely to them without them thinking anything of you or looking at you crazy, it means the world of difference. I always tell my people, I stay if you stay. If you relapse, I'm not leaving. I'm not giving up on you because your hope's not over yet. If you come back, then by all means, I will never walk away. But whenever it comes to the support, there is such a lack of support. People don't have that. People don't know that you have their back and that you truly do care. You have to show people you care because while you're in addiction or even so far into a mental health disorder, you isolate yourself to the point that you don't have trust within people and you tend to not want to trust them. I can tell you all day long that I will support you and I've got your back, but you're not going to believe that until I show you that. And I prove that time after time. And I think that's a huge thing. People, it's hard to go to a counselor and talk to them, especially whenever they may not have experienced what you did. And then you say something small and they're looking at you like you just gave them PTSD. You don't want to talk to them, you know?
Right.
So I like to tell people that I'm okay with telling you as much as you're comfortable with me telling you about myself before you want to talk because I don't want you to feel like you're going to scare me off or that I'm going to think any less of you as a person or that possibly, you know, like you might think that I'm crazy. You might not want to talk. So, yeah, I want them to feel as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking about now I'm a person with lived experience through family. So I have not personally have to walk through an area of recovery. However,
You'll walk through something.
I've walked through a lot of things. But do you feel like people feel safer if a person has experienced it hands on than they do with a person who says, oh, like I lost my nephew to suicide. And so for me, we come from a family of people who have suffered with mental illness. And so I've watched this, my whole life. But I guess people, the respect or the trust level, respect and trust level to say, well, you don't really know what it means to really walk in my shoes. So do you feel like the trust level is more for people who have actually hands-on experienced it?
No, I don't. I feel like the trust level with the experience that you've went through, although you have not, I know you've experienced mental illness yourself, but because you have maybe not went to an extent that somebody else has in your family, does not mean that you don't understand. You didn't read that out of a book. You
This
did
is
not
so good.
study
So
that
let
day
me,
and day
yes.
and then rehearse what you're going to tell somebody. You lived that. You stayed up at night crying. You got on your knees on your face praying to the Lord, and you do at times still. I'm not that I know you personally, but to have suffering with mental illness, it pops in and out. It comes and goes as it pleases. You know what? That's not up to us. You do everything that you can for your family more so before you'll do it for yourself. So by all means, that's experience in its own.
Okay, so here's a question for you. So with the people with lived experience, so let's say that my uncle, who's deceased now, he has substance use disorder. Okay, so he had lived experience. However, I had lived experience, maybe not with drugs necessarily. However, but not necessarily. I've never had experience with drugs. But what I will say is that when I come into a place like Roscoe, working for a recovery program or a nonprofit organization that's going to deal with mental health, and I've never hands on experienced it, am I still considered a person with lived experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
On my sector roster list, whenever you sign in to my council meetings, you would be. I mean, you could mark a couple different things. You do a lot of stuff. You're a wonderful woman. You bring a lot of hope to the world, but absolutely, you do have lived experience. Just because you did not personally ingest a substance or you did not have a full-on addiction to a substance to develop substance use disorder, you dealt with that full-heartedly, and that that is, it might not, you didn't deal with the same things he went through. You don't know how he felt, maybe possibly withdrawing, laying in bed, trying to get the money to get high, or what he did to get high.
Right.
But you lived him through it.
Yeah. So
You,
thank you for clarifying that. That was a controversial topic we had recently with among some of our peers. But I want to go ahead and just tap into how old are your children?
my daughter is 4 and my son just turned 10.
Okay, girl, you got those babies. So, I'm sure that that's one of the areas that keeps you motivated.
And
But
tired.
and come on through.
Blood pressure high too. My blood pressure has not went down since I had my daughter.
Oh my goodness. So, can I ask you a question? So, how old are you, Haley?
I'm 31.
You're 31. So here's the deal. And this has been something that's big to our Ross, is to really grab a hold of, and I'm going to speak to millennials and Gen Zs to say, come aboard, because some of the meetings we go to, we don't see younger generation, right? I'm 53, so I have a daughter your age.
No, you're not.
Yes, I'm
Oh
53.
my God. Well, you're gonna have to share your tricks.
Okay, well, thank you. But one of the things that, how would you say we get more younger generation involved? Because I really, that's one thing I think is a thing, that if you don't see a younger face, you feel like old people, and I'm just gonna call myself old people are trying to come lord over you, control your life, or they can't even understand what you've been through and this, that, and the other. And so, thinking about your babies, what age would you start talking to your son and saying, hey, mommy went through this and I don't ever want you to go through this. So, what age appropriate do you think that kids should be talked to?
My son knows age appropriate that he saved my life, and he is my biggest supporter on what. Oh, that's gonna make me cry. He is my biggest supporter on what I do, and
Wow.
he is. Every day I come home, he's like, "Did you help somebody today? What'd you do today?" And it's wonderful. But I think, sorry,
That's okay.
he's my best friend. I think to get younger people in more so, because I understand what you're saying. That's like walking into an AA meeting and they're just being some older men, and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a good meeting. We have such a small community around here. Even with our 4 counties right now, one of them's a dead town. It is one's nothing but cornfields. It's very, very small, and resources are very hard, as well as gas, trying to get people places. So we're going to offer both. But I feel like getting the word out there by all means, which is very hard in some ways whenever there's not many people, but offering them the availability to be there, but as well as showing them that there's something for them. You can come high. I don't care, but just come listen. Come,
Oh, that's
come
great.
experience it and see how you feel. I'll come pick you up.
Wow.
I'll buy you phone minutes. I'll do whatever it takes if you'll show up at least one time to give it a chance, because this is the best thing in the entire world. I wish this was around years ago. I might not have went to rehab so many times, but it's a blessing. There's nothing like ROSC.
Yeah,
There's
there's
not.
nothing like ROS, the Recovery Oriented System of Care. Well, you guys, this is Haley Robinson, and it has been my joy to talk to you today. And you guys, it's so important that you share this information. You can subscribe to our new YouTube channel, which is fine. But getting the word out there. Unfortunately, we heard of a family, of one of our friends who's like family, who lost their nephew to an overdose on Sunday, and the pain that I felt, because not just because of hearing it, but because he was young, but because I was sharing this in our council meeting yesterday. I didn't know that Narcan was a thing till I started working in recovery.
I'm gonna send you all the Narcan in the world.
Yeah, I
Can
did.
I say this real quick?
Yes.
I even if people are not local, I will send you Narcan. I do not care. I will call you over the phone or do a video chat with you and train you and send you any type of information that you need. But I will give you signs on overdose, what to look for. things to do, but I will supply you with Narcan for free in any way possible, mail in person. It does not have to be on a piece of paper. Nobody has to know. It can be completely discreet. I will do groups at a time. It does not matter. We can have a Facebook party and I'll train everybody. Anything. I don't care. I love passing out Narcan. And now I'm not the dope pusher. I'm the Narcan pusher. It's
Come
the
on,
best thing.
Narcan
So
pusher.
I can't take no for an answer. That's just motivation. I've
Wow,
not had
Haley.
to walk away yet with not a box of Narcan.
Well, you know what? I think some worlds, there are a lot of worlds where people think they're exempt. And they think, oh, I just smoke a little weed, or oh, I just do a little bit this, but that little to this to this to this leads to this. And I think that that's one misconception, because now that marijuana is so legal almost everywhere, that people don't realize that one thing leads to one thing. And the one thing that bothers me is when people smoke with their children. That part right there.
That makes me ill. Whenever I was younger, people would say, "Oh, that's a gateway drug." I'm like, that's stupid. Why would you say? Absolutely not. That's not stupid. That is so true. Also, people are putting fentanyl in weed. I know a lady a couple counties up, and she's never took a pain pill, never took anything in her life. She smokes weed. She overdosed on fentanyl. She's made it, thankfully.
Thankfully.
We also had a stakeholder from our council meeting for Union County. Her son overdosed, and he's in the hospital right now, waiting to be stabilized enough to be moved to another hospital. So keep him in your prayers.
Definitely will. Definitely will.
Very
Well, I'm so grateful that we are working together. I can't wait to connect you with, I know you were busy yesterday, but with our council, and we'll kind of show up to you all's council. I know it's just really important just to collaborate together.
Absolutely. That's my favorite part.
Yes, collaborating, sharing, and thank you for being an advocate and a voice, and thank you that you answered the call.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me have a voice.
Yes.
That's
So
what
you
matters
guys,
the most.
if you want to get in touch with Haley, by all means, go ahead and pop on to her Facebook channel. Haley Robinson, she has LinkedIn as well as a Ross Facebook group.
We do have a Ross Council meeting tomorrow. It's our last one for the month until next month starts. So you can zoom in on that too. You don't have to be from the county.
Well, follow Haley Robinson on Facebook, you guys. Please, by all means, and share this information. The beautiful Haley Robinson, our peer recovery specialist, who is fighting for people to have recovery and hope. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blessing.
Yes. All right, you guys. Until next time, we will be back. But until then, have a fantabulous day. All right. Hang tight, Haley.
Connecting vibe, connecting vibe, connecting vibe, connecting vibe, connecting vibe, connecting vibe.